advise possible exposure.
Tavares police said they're releasing this difficult footage of an officer who is now doing okay as a warning about how dangerous fentanyl can be. Courtney Sullivan with the Tavares Police Department said Officer Courtney Bannock found drugs on a passenger during a traffic stop Monday night.
She said she just barely opened it, saw that it was, narcotics, closed it quickly.
Sullivan said Bannock wore gloves as she always did. The officers agreed to test the substance back at the department, trying to avoid exposure because it was windy.
Next thing you know, she was trying to key up on the radio, and you could hear in the radio traffic almost like she was choking.
There's some body cam footage from Florida cops as one of their officers apparently overdosed a bit on fentanyl from handling it. There's been stories about this all over the country from police officers talking about this, potentially overdosing from handling, taking a look at, inhaling some of this from windy conditions, as they said here. But there's some other experts in the field, medical experts, that say, hold on, calm down. This is where the conflict comes, you guys. Let's see where we fall on this. The scientific literature shows definitively that brief contact with fentanyl is not sufficient for it to enter the bloodstream and cross the blood-brain barrier to cause such a rapid overdose. That's what these medical experts are saying. All the way back in 2017, America's leading toxicological societies noticed that the spread of these viral exposure stories and tried to put them to rest. There have since been countless fact checks and scientific debunkings by major news outlets, including one from the Times' editorial board, the New York Times editorial board. One scientist even experienced this kind of exposure and had his own story to tell from that. Now, last month, this 33-year-old clinical toxicologist and emergency medicine pharmacist named Ryan Feldman co-published a case study about the time he accidentally spilled a mammoth dose of pure liquid fentanyl all over himself at work. He says he simply washed it off with no adverse effects. As a matter of fact, there's that case study, the headline from that case study, at least, that he said all this went down. There was an accidental occupational exposure to a large volume of liquid fentanyl on a compromised skin barrier. That means maybe there was a cut on his skin somewhere where it did hit, so there was possibility for it to even enter his system immediately, not just on the surface. But he said, he just washed it off, bro. So the other part about this, one other mention of folks and police officers across the country that have been exposed to this and passing out on camera happened in San Diego. This one I think was a little bit more popular. People had seen this one. If you guys remember this is what happened in San Diego to a cop.
You're okay. Don't be sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. I got you, okay? I'm not gonna let you die. I'm not gonna let you die. It's okay, just focus on your breathing, okay? Focus on it. I need Narcan!
I'm Corporal Scott Crane from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. My trainee was exposed to fentanyl and nearly died. He found a white substance that he suspected was drugs.
Yeah, it's a powder.
It could be cocaine or fentanyl.
It tested positive for fentanyl. That stuff's no joke, dude. It's super dangerous.
I was like, hey, dude, too close. You can't get that close to it. A couple seconds later, he took some steps back and he collapsed.
I don't remember anything after that.
Just breathe, buddy.
Trying to get him to focus on just breathing. And because, that fentanyl, you can't breathe.
It was in an instant. It's as though my lungs just locked up. I couldn't breathe. I was trying to gasp for breath, but I couldn't breathe at all.
You're okay. Don't be sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about.
So that dramatic video was, of course, like you said, put forward by the San Diego cops. But there's more details from this because there was that pushback that came and they were appalled by it. Sheriff Bill Gore said on Monday that the dramatic video his department publicized last week, intending to highlight the danger of fentanyl to law enforcement, was produced without any input from physicians. Let's jump down to graphic 7 because a couple hundred medical professionals did sign a petition for a retraction of that video. And so the officers were upset by that. They said, I saw the video. Everybody that saw the video saw him seize up, go down, fall on his head, is what Gore said. The drugs tested for fentanyl. It was classic signs of fentanyl overdose. That's why we called it that. And the sheriff said he was shocked to hear this pushback from toxicologists and members of the medical community. Gore pledged to release the full, unedited, body-worn video of the incident to seek medical records of the deputy. So first here, I'm curious what your thoughts are first, because there's more from the medical community that's talking about what it is that they're possibly experiencing, since they don't really believe that it could be from such a quick exposure, even just from touching or looking at some fentanyl. Jackson, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that fentanyl is an extremely dangerous drug, but if it was that toxic to the touch, it would be like used in like chemical warfare or something. It wouldn't be something people would really be able to consume in any form at all. Typically, people inject it, some people snort it. But it wouldn't be something people would be able to do whatsoever if it was that kind of toxic. And also, like I grew up and we all grew up with the DARE program and, just the general premise that drugs are incredibly dangerous. Anything that's abused could be incredibly dangerous. And especially if like opiates are incredibly addictive. Well, other drugs that aren't opiates, what I'm saying? Like a lot of people, they'll try them and be like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, I mean, maybe crack, yeah, that's something else. But like people learn through experience that, oh, I can do this drug and it's not killing me. So really this type of propaganda with just making it like that overblown, practically it can be used to more heavily legally crack down on it. Like if there's fentanyl, it's like, there's no question here. Actually, a friend of mine in St. Louis recently got arrested. He got caught with cocaine and they said there's fentanyl in it. So with this type of propaganda like that, it can be like, oh, fentanyl, there's no question. There's absolutely, you know what I mean? When laws, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so it's just like there's practicality behind it, so.
Well, I wonder what the reality is behind it. Let's go to this graphic 8 here, because this is what they're considering as potentially happening to these folks. Some psychologists suggested a kind of mass psychogenic illness is afoot, or a form of conversion disorder, neurological symptoms without a clear physical cause, or potentially simple panic attacks. As simple as that. Police officers have been told by authorities, including the Drug Enforcement Administration, that microscopic amounts of fentanyl can be deadly. They're taught to fear this substance. Their bodies may react accordingly, exhibiting symptoms like rapid breathing that are indicative of distress and panic. They also went on to say that if someone is overdosing from something like fentanyl, it doesn't usually put you in like a seizure type of state. It's more like a dozing off, where then eventually your body does shut down and you cease breathing. Many times people OD'ing like that is what they're pointing out. And this just looks a lot different. I don't know, man. You guys could discuss this in the comments, but I'm not an expert on drug use or the effects of all this stuff. So I can only go off what experts say, just saying. And we can look into that deeper.